Welcome in, everybody, to Box Score Network, Pro Football Enterprises, two channels, one great product. I am Ben Parker. That is Austin Freed, and that is Shane Ratliff. We really appreciate everybody dropping in today. We're looking at Jordyn Tyson. So Tyson's one of the guys that we covered back in the summer when we did a whole group of receivers. Matter of fact, we did, I think, three different videos on three different groups of receivers. We covered them in detail, but what we really wanted to do was come back on a lot of these receivers, as many as we can between now and the draft, and kind of refocus our lenses a little bit. Maybe we like them a little bit better. Maybe we like them a little bit worse. But this is our second look at Jordyn Tyson, and so we'll kind of narrow our focus a little bit based on what we had coming off of summer. Let me set the table, and then we're going to hand it over to Austin and Shane. And, of course, I have a whole page full of notes here on Tyson. Brand new notes. I didn't copy anything from the last time. I didn't even read what I wrote last time. I
Yeah,
went with
I did the same.
awesome new stuff. So good across the board. Here we go. Height 6'1", 6'2". I mentioned this back in the summer, a little bit of variance, but he is what he is. Weight 195. Receptions in 24. Had 75 for 1,100 yards. Had a good YPR at 14.7, and of course the double-digit 10 touchdowns that we all like to see. In 25, and again, whenever you watch this video, he will have already added to these numbers if he's back on the field. I know he was out a game or two, but whenever he's back on the field, he will have added to these numbers. 57 catches, 628 receiving yards, YPR. That YPR 8, that's not right, I don't think. I apologize if that's a typo. I think I may have mistyped that in. But 11 touchdowns on the year, so he's already surpassed his number of touchdowns from last year, having another very good season. Austin, I'm going to start off with you. Jordyn Tyson, Arizona State.
Yeah, this guy definitely added a little bit to his frame. I think from when I watched him in 2024, which is definitely a good thing. I think one of the things he was lacking was just strength in general, and it's good that he's added on some weight, but I'm still a little bit wanting in that department. But he managed to add that weight without reducing his speed. I think he might even be faster this year, if I'm being honest. He has almost a really long torso and kind of short legs. He's a pretty tall guy. I think he'll measure in close to 6'2" in the combine, but he's got kind of short legs, and I feel like it makes him look slower than he is because he's not some big long strider. He's very much a kind of short, quick strides, but he very much gets down the field quickly. Like you don't really see him needing an extra gear too often, especially against the college level competition that he's up against now. I think he is really, really good off the line. That's probably his single best area in terms of his route running is he just gets off the line so well. Even when the guys are pressing him, I think the little bit more mass he has allowed him to
Mm-hmm.
take a little bit of a hit. But like I mentioned with those short steps, he uses that to his advantage in varying his stride length off the line, which is something that some of the top level guys in the league do so well, is they vary their stride length in the first three steps. Sometimes you'll take a big gallop, almost like a skip step, and you'll keep your hips square. Other times you'll chop your feet for a few steps. Like you got to be able to do that, and he does that really, really well, and it gets him off some jams. I think when guys are playing in off coverage, though, I don't really love the way he attacks like the corner's feet in the first few steps in off coverage. I think that's somewhere I would love to see him kind of improve. Is just like really make an aggressive. I mean, it depends on the route, obviously, but in a lot of situations where I'm like, hey, like attack those hips of the corner before you make your move. I feel like he doesn't do that sometimes. The most impressive part of his game overall, though, I think, are his just ball skills. He's got tremendous
Mm-hmm.
hands, body control, and just sort of instincts, I think, for going and getting the ball. He tracks the deep ball as well as anybody in this class that I've looked at so far, and he goes in high points among the best of them as well. So I think his ball skills really move him up a tier from what he grades out and the rest of it as an above average guy who you're like, hey, this guy could be a second round, late first round guy. When you take a look at what he does in just terms of going and getting the ball. That immediately, to me, elevates him to that kind of upper echelon of receivers in a draft class. So I'm really starting to grow on him. I have him firmly in my top three receivers so far this year. I'm not quite willing to go on the like, hey, he's wide receiver one for me yet. I think it could happen at some point, especially when measurables come out, like in a combine situation. But from what I've seen so far, he is definitely top three in this class. And I understand why some people have him as high as they do. I definitely see it. I'm just not ready to quite stamp it myself.
That's very good. That's one of the best reports I've heard on any wide receiver anytime, Austin. That's excellent. Especially the part about the weight last year versus this year. That's very good. And then the part about the strides. I didn't notice the strides coming off the line, but that's very good. So I learned something there as well on Tyson. Shane, I'm coming right to you. I do want to say there on the typo, this is totally my fault. In the 2025 yards per reception, that should be a flat 11 and the touchdown should be 10. I mean, it should be 8. Okay. So I just switched those two numbers there. Apologies to the audience for the typos there. So, Shane, good to see you tonight, man. Lay it on us. Arizona State, they play about the same kind of weather you live in, right? I mean, that's pretty similar, right?
It'd be nice for the Arizona weather right now, only just short of a foot of snow where I'm at right now. So it would delay Tyson's speed a little bit. But as you and Austin said, I like to try to take away from looking at what we've already talked about for Jordyn Tyson. But the one thing I did go back and look at were the weaknesses I put from the first time we talked to him. Austin already mentioned the weight increase. I agree with him. It's really helped him. One of the things I talked about in the first time we discussed him was he had trouble getting off the line when they put him in press coverage because, as Austin said, his short skills to get off the line have been great. So a lot of teams started to press him, and he didn't have the weight or the strength to really fight back off of that. He's increased that this year. I agree with Austin. I think talent wise, he sits in the top three. I think some of the game film you watch, he's absolutely dominating. He by far is the best player they have on the team this year. No Cam Scott about to help him. Levitt is having a little bit of a down year as well. My big concern and the reason why, like Austin said, I have him firmly placed in the top three, but I don't think that he's going to be number one, is the medical history. Hurt again this year, has had difficulty with the medicals the last couple of years. I find that that's something that teams are starting to look at more and more, especially if you're trying to count the mileage on a wide receiver's legs. Um, I think Austin hit on the thing that pops out to you number one, though, when you watch the film. Uh, Comes from an athletic background, family in the NBA. You can see the way that he's played other sports before. Not only the deep ball, but Austin mentioned it, the high pointing. I think he does a better job. You could watch tape for him for some of the guys we talked about that are in that 6'4" range. Like he knows that he's going to go up and get the ball. Good leaping ability, secure hands, does a great job when it comes to that. I think this year having a little bit less of an offense around him has hurt him, just because teams know that he's the one you have to watch out for.
Yeah, very good. I thought you could definitely see that, Shane, in the Utah game where they got really physical. It's cold weather,
Mm-hmm.
and they devoted a lot of resources toward just keeping him. Plus, Levitt was not in that game either, so that hindered a lot of what he might have done downfield in that game. So, excellent work, especially on the medical side there, Shane. That's a good. That's a good mention. I was going to touch on potential injury at the NFL level later on, but from a much different angle. I actually forgot that in the past seasons he had those medical issues as well. I was just thinking about this year. So, all right. Apologies to everybody. You got to listen to me for about 4 or 5 minutes here, and then we're going to kick it right back to Austin and Shane to get their final words on all of this. So here we go. I'll copy some of the things they said as I go through the notes. Outstanding vertical jump really makes a difference in his game, a big difference. If it were not for his vertical jump, I wouldn't see as many great plays from him, all that high pointing stuff that he does that allows me to consider drafting him as high as I would consider drafting him. Okay. That vertical jump really is a huge thing there for his game. Very athletic. That shows up every play. It really does. Excellent focus and hands. He makes a lot of difficult catches, a lot of weird and odd angle and over the shoulder catches. I mean, he makes a lot of those balls that are not placed correctly, but they just kind of throw it to the space he's at, and he contorts over to get it. But his focus, y'all have already been all over this. I'm not saying anything new here. His focus is tremendous, and the hands to go along with it. A lot of that stuff. Has plenty of speed to work any part of the field, including deep. Does not seem to have elite run away from defensive back speed, but wins deep all the time. He's a legit deep threat. I don't think that he can just run away and leave defensive backs. I haven't seen that. I've seen them either staying even or catching up to him. But this guy wins deep all the time. That is just not a problem, and that is going to continue at the NFL level as well, with very few exceptions. He's a legit deep threat. Very good body control. Works the boundaries and back of end zone very well. Just, I mean, this guy's a class act at the boundaries. Any boundary you've got, he knows where he's at. He can control himself, keep in bounds. Seems equally comfortable versus zone and man. You mentioned in the off coverage, Austin, that was very good. I hadn't seen as much of that with that, but he looks very comfortable when they try to man up on him, and when they do the zones. Best, most unique attribute. I think y'all each mentioned a different favorite attribute of his, so I've got a different one as well. Here it comes. His best unique attribute is his ability to fluidly change directions while running routes. Now that's double moves, yes, but even more than that. Whenever they're playing tight man, he can subtly change. He can change direction to almost flip the route. It's amazing how quickly he can just zip his hips and flip to the opposite direction of where he was running. And the same thing in zones. Whenever he's heading toward an area that's guarded, he can just flip the route seamlessly or flow seamlessly into open areas. I mean, that really is. I love that. I've seen that time after time in the end zone. I've seen it on midfield routes. I've seen it on short stuff. I just absolutely love that he can do that. Let's see. Lots of yak all the time. Dang it, boy. This guy racks up a lot of yak. They look to him at all the biggest moments. When the defense is making that offense struggle, and when it's late game, they continue to look for him, and usually he cashes in, and that's a big deal. Really big deal. In routes, I'm going to name some routes. In routes, out routes, post routes, fly routes, drag routes, tunnel screens, jet sweeps, scramble routes when the play breaks down, crazy loop routes through end zone traffic, hook routes when his original route is done. He can do all of that, all right? He can do all of that and more. So he can run the tree, and then he just adds on all kinds of stuff to the tree. If he lands with a good QB OC and indoors, so I'm classifying things here a little bit. If he lands with a good quarterback and a good OC, and he's indoors most of the time, he may be unstoppable. I mean, that would be like the perfect combination for what he can do. And I realize you can say that about some wide receivers, but this guy's one of them, okay? If he got that combination, like with the Rams, and if Stafford were still there, he would be unstoppable much of the time. It just would not surprise me. Let's see. I'm almost done here. Blocking is not great. We covered that before. Oh, well. Nobody's going to be asking him to block a lot. It's not his game. The last thing I'll say here, and I'm done with the notes. I've got this guy as a guy who's going to be highly productive at the NFL level. Fantasy managers will love him to death. I see him collecting all Pro Bowls from time to time. This is how I view him. I don't yet have him viewed as a dominant force at the next level. And I don't yet have him as being a consistent all-pro at the next level. If I'm projecting ahead, that's not quite where I've got him. But, man, I would love to have this guy on my football team. He's going to produce like crazy. I think any OC, any quarterback is going to really enjoy having him. The one other thing I will add, and Shane touched on this, when you have a lighter frame guy and he's already got a bit of a medical history just from this year, plus a little bit from past years, you kind of wonder how long he could be at his peak at the NFL level. Now, sometimes it's not a problem. We've seen guys with lighter type frames have very long NFL careers, and I mean peak level. So sometimes it's just not a thing. But if I'm separating him versus, and Austin, you mentioned that, I'm going to mention Carnell Tate here. I still tend to have Carnell Tate higher, man, just because of the size and physicality that's there, and it's close. I mean, it's really close. They're two completely different types of receivers, but boy, the talent is close, I tend to want the bigger guy. And part of that is, well, how long can he maintain at a top level for a long time? And maybe it's a long time, but it does cross your mind when I'm looking at Tyson. Absolutely love him. I've got him first round lock. I'm more than happy to start thinking about drafting him top 20. I just don't think I'd go for him top 10 like I've seen some people do, but that's okay if that's what you need. This is the perfect fit for you and your team. Go for it. That's not going to stop me, but that's where I'm at. All right. So, Austin, back to you here. Final word on Jordyn Tyson. Anything you want to touch on or just add on to?
Yeah, you mentioned the yak ability, and that's something that I don't think it's talked about enough with him for me. He is, I think, very good
Yeah.
with the ball in his hands. He's used in the screen game a good bit there in Arizona State, and I think that is a strength of his. I don't think it is his, calling card or anything, but I'm excited whenever the ball gets thrown to him in the short area and we can watch what he can do after the catch, especially now that he's got a little bit more mass on him. I think he's able to shrug off some hits and stay upright. He seems to just kind of have that ability to stay upright after a hit from a lighter corner now. So that's something that I really like. When I'm trying to think of where I would be willing to take him, I really like his nose for the end zone. I think he's really good in the red zone. So that to me is a big plus that if someone can be really effective in the especially the low red zone or but if someone can have a nose for the end zone, that's going to boost their stock for me. I think I'm getting close to top 10. I think I'd have him just outside there. I was thinking about adding him to my list. I don't stack my rankings year to year. Like I don't compare him to, like Tet McMillan or anything like that. I try to look at each class individually, but I was really high on McMillan last year, and I would not be as high on him as I was McMillan. I don't know if it would particularly be in that close yet. He would have to have some crazy measurements or something to reach where I had McMillan. So that definitely doesn't have him as a top 10 pick for me. But I think he's somewhere in the top 20 for sure, probably closer to like 15. Yeah, I'm really excited for this kid. A lot of tools and I think some really good instincts to go along with it. I think he's going to be a really good player no matter where he ends up. I don't think um, he'll need any sort of system to have any success. I see him all over the field for Arizona State. I see him out wide and in the slot, left side, right side. So I don't think he will be pigeonholed. I think he has balance to kind of go anywhere and do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy's a nightmare to guard. Shane, I'm coming right to you. Austin, you mentioned the off coverage earlier. One of the things I had in my notes was if I was going to guard this guy, I would either just beat the crap out of him at the line of scrimmage. And he doesn't get that a lot in college, but you already mentioned he's beefed up on that a little bit, so he should be able to handle that a little bit. The other way, and Utah did some of this, they kind of mixed it up a little bit, is just play off of him and tackle him immediately. Kind of play, don't let him get to the inside. When he cuts across the inside, he's going to kill you. But play inside leverage, get him pushed over to the boundary just a little bit, tackle him immediately, play off him so the quarterback wants to take that easy short stuff. This guy's a nightmare to guard. I mean, he really is a handful. Shane, man, second to you. Final word.
Well, I think kind of what you and Austin have already hit on. I have him sitting. Austin hit to 15. I think he's sitting anywhere from 14 to like 24. And I actually think this is a guy where if he falls back to that later, it's actually going to help him because everything we've talked about, the one reason why I don't put him in the top two, that upper echelon, is I think he'd be better having a number one wide receiver and have him be your laughable riches to have him be your number two because like
Yes.
Austin mentioned, you can move him anywhere. And if you play him in a slot with a true number one guy, that makes your offensive coordinator's job very easy. You mentioned the Rams off the top, Ben. Like the same way they stack wide receivers, where you get your number one, and then because the Rams just trade away draft picks, you pick somebody at the top of round two that's great, and you can fit him in here. Um, I think the one thing that's going to help him at the pro level too, and not a lot of people always talk about who your college coaches are, but having Hines Ward go through some things and talk to him about what this is going to be like, where maybe you got to come in your first year and you're not the most dominant guy on the team, and some of the other things like that. I think, as Austin mentioned, the place where I watch him the most is that screen game and the short passing game. I think he plays better almost as a running back than he does as a wide receiver, and that's saying something because I think he tracks a deep ball better than anybody else in this draft. So I think that falling back would help him the most. My biggest worry, like Austin said, if his numbers are outstanding at the combine, then I think he's going to jump up into your top 10. I worry that some of these injuries are going to come back to haunt him. Some of the knocks on him may grow through that, and that may lead to a drop in the draft.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said tonight. And again, we don't always see players the same, but everything you guys put out there, I think is beautiful. And I've even picked up a couple of things, so it's excellent work. That's Jordyn Tyson, everybody. Arizona State. He will be, assuming he's healthy, and it's just a little nagging injury he's got right now. Assuming he's in full health, he will be very high in the draft. So everybody, thank y'all so much for watching. Austin, Shane, thank y'all very much. Have a great one, and goodbye.